Hi, welcome to episode 24 of Talk About the Passion. My name is Christian Campagna, and today's episode is called Hand of Doom, which is named after the Black Sabbath song, obviously. I was going to name this episode after a song by the band The Firm, but I went with this one. Sorry, I think this works better. My guest today is Boston area musician Darryl Shepard. Darryl was in my first list of guests I had hoped to have on here, and I finally got something set up with him, and we got this great hour conversation down. Darryl has played in a number of great bands in Boston, from Milligram to Slapshot, Slaughter Shack, Roadsaw, Kind, in his newest project, Test Meet. We managed to hit every one of those bands as far as I can tell, and I think we hit every single one of them. And, Darryl's one of the funniest guys I know, although this was, I think, one of the first times I had, like, an actual conversation with him outside of, a couple meetings here and there at shows for a brief minute. When I think of Darryl as a musician, though, I think of a number of amazing eras in the Boston music scene that he's been a part of, and, it's remarkable, really, when you think about it. Also of note, Darryl was in bands with two of my previous guests, Mark McKay in Slapshot, and then in Milligram with Jonah Jenkins. So check those two episodes out if you haven't. And this is a great episode, and I'm glad he came on. His stories where he gets into sort of the motivation behind certain bands are they're all very clear and concise and interesting, and make complete sense when you listen to those particular bands, knowing the background of them. So a couple of more things before I get started with this. I know this podcast is advertised as a weekly podcast, but sometimes the weekly thing just doesn't work out. Sometimes it's, scheduling situations, or sometimes it's just not happening for me, and I need a week or so to right the ship, if you will. Regardless, I plan to do this until I can't do it anymore. And if there's a week where I can't get an episode together, there'll be one coming soon after that. And I do have some cool ones coming up, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm on social media. If you search for Talk About the Passion podcast, you should be able to find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Same goes for wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find me there, Google Play, Apple Music. I'm also on Spotify now, so you can check me out there. Just search for Talk About the Passion podcast, and make sure you add podcast at the end, or else you'll get the REM song. If you or someone you know would like to be on this podcast, please send me a message at talkaboutthep@gmail.com. That's talkaboutthep, that's just the letter P, @gmail.com. Or, hit me up on Facebook, and I promise never to use the expression "hit me up" again. Also, I'll be in California in November, hoping to set some episodes up out there. So if you're out there or know someone who is that you think should be on here, let me know. And I'll be in the Los Angeles area and the Bay Area for about a week, splitting time between both of those. And message me, and I'll give you the dates, and we can set something up. That would be cool. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to episode 24. This is Hand of Doom, Darryl Shepard, and thanks for listening. Enjoy. Cool. So I'm here with Darryl Shepard here in beautiful Malden, Mass.
Yes.
And, how you doing, man?
Doing good.
Good.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. How long did you grow up in Malden?
I am from Malden, yes, originally, and went to Malden High School, and then I moved out. I lived in Alston for years, lived in Jamaica Plain for a while, lived all over the place, and then I moved back to Malden about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because it's cheap and affordable, compared to Kieran, live in Boston right now,
Right,
so. But Malden's rents are going up now too, so
I know, of course.
pretty soon I'll be
Out.
somewhere else, Lynn or somewhere else, yeah.
I know, they're always pushing people out. It's
Yep. Yep.
So what did you do in Malden for fun as a kid?
Malden was actually, when I was a kid, there was some cool stuff here. There was actually used to be 2 bowling alleys.
Yeah.
And I was in a bowling league.
Oh, nice.
One of the bowling alleys was really good. They're both gone now, of course. But one of them was like a really big bowling alley, had 2 floors, and had like a really cool arcade.
Oh, nice.
So that was awesome. And then there also used to be a movie theater right downtown, right in Malden Square. There used to be a movie theater, which has been long gone. So I used to go there as a kid. And there used to be actually an old building that had like YMCA in it, where like they would kids could go and we used to do like archery and shoot BB guns and stuff like that. So I used to do that at the Y.
Nice.
All of that's all gone now.
Yeah.
So there used to be band rehearsal studios in Malden too.
Oh, really?
Believe it or not,
Oh,
like that had a lot of bands. I think Psycho used to practice
really?
there. Yep.
Oh, interesting.
And a bunch of other bands used to,
nice.
but again, those are gone. I know I heard there's some new studios opening.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where.
Right.
But yeah, I mean Malden's, I like it. It's pretty mellow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some good bars and restaurants. That's really about it.
Yeah.
There's not much in Malden right now. There's some breweries.
Yeah.
But the stuff when I was a kid is, like I said, the bowling alleys,
Yeah.
the movie theater. It's all long gone.
Yeah.
So.
And when did you have any like influential people in your life that got you into music?
Let me see. That's a good question, man. Like when I was first starting to play, like in high school, there were definitely some other like guitar players, in high school, and we used to have kind of like friendly competitions and stuff like that. And they had the talent show like at Malden High. Every high school has that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was in that a couple of years playing guitar with just some people, and that was always kind of like interesting because like there was one band who did. It was kind of interesting. This band did, which was really weird actually. They did The Firm, but they had a song called All the King's Horses, which was like one of their semi hits. The Firm, Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
And I remember that they had there was like a dress rehearsal or something, and their guitar player was sick or something, or he couldn't make it. And I actually filled in. I don't even know why I knew the song. I learned the song and played. So I played like this Firm song, when I was in high school. It was pretty funny. I didn't play the actual show.
Right.
And then another band I was in, we tried to do Tom Sawyer as a 3-piece, as like the way that Rush did it,
right? Where
Where the bass player sang and played keyboards and played bass,
nice.
and the drummer wasn't really that good at it.
Right.
So we didn't pull it off at all. But there was always like a lot of I was in I guess what really started was I was in the school band. I played trumpet.
Okay, early on.
Since 4th grade, and then I stayed with it all the way through high school, and so I was in the marching band, and the marching band was like Malden High had a really intense like marching band program. It was almost like drum corps.
Oh, all right.
So I think that kind of rubbed off on me, There was, and a lot of the kids in the marching band also played other instruments. Like there was like this one dude who was like a really sick drummer, and there was like some couple guitar players. So we all kind of hung out, and talked about music and stuff. So that probably had a lot to do with it too when I first started playing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
And people have been doing this like 10 records on Facebook thing the last few weeks, which is cool. But I think what you've been doing is cool. You've been actually writing little blurbs on each one, which I think is
cool.
I
mean, I'm just. Yeah, I at first I wasn't gonna do it, and then like, what the heck, But I mean, I'm just trying to write like a little background thing for me personally, like because I'm just not posting my favorite albums, but albums that actually played like like a role in my life. You know what I mean? Like like the Monkees album, Headquarters. That is definitely like absolutely the first album that I remember like listening to as a little kid.
Yeah,
and really like getting into it, like wow, this is really cool. And like my parents just had the record, and I'm like, put it on, and I'm like, this is great. Same thing with Kiss, double platinum.
Right.
I'm not a huge Kiss fan anymore, but like that's classic stuff. You know what I mean? I still listen to it if it's playing.
Yeah.
I don't like Gene Simmons.
No, I know, like you were saying. Yeah, I don't.
He's kind of ruined
yeah.
Kiss for me.
Yeah,
but
I'll forever buy their shit used at this point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when as a kid, I was like, I think that was the first record I bought. I'm like, Kiss. I'm like, this is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and like Soundgarden, more recently, like literally, that's one of the records where, up until that point, I was just like totally into like thrash metal. That's like all I listened to.
Yeah.
Just like from like 1985 or so, just like, Exodus, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, like just all thrash. And then like literally like Soundgarden came out and I just stopped.
Yeah.
Like listening to thrash metal. I just started listening to like Soundgarden and the Melvins and like Nirvana and stuff like that. It was like literally it was just like this one day I just discovered like, Louder Than Love, and it was just like my whole thing changed. The whole thing changed,
They were like our Zeppelin almost.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I never heard a band like that at that time where it was like, I was like, wow, these guys sound exactly to me like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin combined. And I'm like, that's perfect. You know what I mean? And I seriously just stopped listening to thrash for a while, for years, and just like listened to like that. You know what I mean?
Nice. And so after, to go back a little, to go to trumpet, so you then got into guitar at some point, and it was at high school.
I got into guitar. I was probably like around 13, I think, 13 or 14. I actually wanted to play drums originally, but I just had nowhere for a drum set, so I was like, I'll just play guitar, So I just got a cheap Hondo guitar and a cheap PV amp.
Yeah.
And there was some other, like I said, some other friends of mine. We played guitar. We would kind of try to jam, whatever. We weren't very good. And then there was one other kid at school, this kid John, and there was a drummer, Steven. I think his name was Steven. No, Jeff. His brother's name was Steven.
Okay.
Jeff Shepard. Mm-hmm. His last name was Shepard. No relation.
Right.
But we would jam, and I would go over to his house. I was probably like 14, 15. So it was just like two guitars and drums.
Right.
No one sang because none of us could sing.
Yeah.
But we would just play like Holy Diver by Dio, just instrumental, and just play that. And then we would play, like most of Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Like we would play like Hand of Doom. We played like that whole song, just instrumental, but we didn't care. You know what I mean? With our little practice amps and everything, and it was kind of cool, and like some kids would come over, and like some like girls would come over, and oh, this is cool, man. And some girls are hanging out watching us play music. You know what I mean? And it was fun. We did, I did that for a few years, like before actually, playing like in a real band.
Right,
you know what I mean? We never played out or anything. It was just like jamming.
Yeah.
I think the closest thing we ever did to playing out was we actually set up everything on his front porch, like right on Lebanon Street, in Malden, and we just played everything that we knew like on his front porch, and like people like driving by looking at us, and awesome. It was pretty funny. Yeah. Nice. But that was before like playing in real bands, but it was definitely like a lot of fun to do. Definitely. Yeah. And then the only reason we stopped, I think, was because he moved out of that house, the kids' the house where we jammed.
Yeah.
And they moved into like a condo, and then it was like, well, we can't practice anymore. So then, we just kind of stopped, Yeah.
Nice. So that helped lay the groundwork for you to
definitely
just have experience. When did you start writing stuff yourself?
Yeah, and then so then after that I started, the first real band I was in was like a thrash band.
Yeah.
Called Dustlock. And that's when I started, writing my own music, with the other guys and stuff. And that was totally just from listening to, that was just 100% thrash. That's when I was like completely just, obsessed with thrash metal. Yeah. And so, I was just like trying to write stuff that sounded like, Nuclear Assault and Megadeth and Exodus and all that. You know what I mean? So I was just trying to, so a lot of the Dustlock stuff wasn't that original, but I was like 17. It's like we were just trying to do whatever, what I mean? So it was definitely fun. And then we wrote some good songs. We played some good shows. We played with like Guar.
Yeah.
We played with Celtic Frost.
Nice.
We played with Flotsam and Jetsam. We actually played some good shows. We actually got a rejection letter from Combat.
Oh, really?
From Combat Records, and we were like so proud. We like hung it up on the wall. Like, Combat Records rejected us.
That's
and we were like so proud of that. We're like, someone heard of us. You know what I mean?
I know. Really.
It was so funny. Yeah, it was on like the Combat Records stationery.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That would have been like the late 80s, 88?
Yeah, it was like 80, like right around 88.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around 88, 89.
Nice. And then what did you do after that for a band?
So then, that band lasted for a few years. And then I started playing with Slaughter Shack.
Yeah.
Like I used to go see them play. And you know, I was kind of friendly with them, but I didn't really know them that well. And then they had like a little bit of a lineup change,
right.
and they said, "Hey, do you want to come down and play guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know, sure." And that was a whole different world because Slaughter Shack at that time was actually like they were a pretty big deal in Boston area. You know what I mean? And like they won the Rumble, and like they were a pretty awesome band. I saw them play with Nirvana at MIT. You know, and so then I started playing with them. That just, you know, and so then I did that for a few years, and that was awesome. That was like that was a whole eye-opening thing to play with them, you know. And Dana, the other guitar player, she dated Jay from White Zombie, the guitar player. Right, She dated him for a while.
I remember that.
So Slaughter Shack used to do a lot of stuff with White Zombie, you know, a lot of shows and stuff. And that was definitely fun. And that just kind of eventually, you know, fizzled out. Like Dana moved away. Yeah. The band just kind of ended. Yeah. You know.
They seem to have a similar aesthetic, I feel like, White Zombie and stuff.
Right, yeah. Slaughter Shack and White Zombie were very close. You know, White Zombie used to be great, man. You know, like back before they got like really into like the dancier kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, they were like really cool. And like Slaughter Shack was very much in the same vein as like the early White Zombie stuff, you know? Yeah. So it was definitely like a good mix, a good match. Nice. Yeah. And then right around that same time, when I was in Slaughter Shack, I started playing with Slapshot too, because like a lot of those guys are from Malden. Yeah. And we used to practice. There used to be a bar, which is no longer there. Just right down the street, there used to be a bar that Steve Steen's like uncle, I think, owned. Oh, okay. And we used to practice in the basement of the bar, which was just like a few blocks down there. And so, and then I, played with Slapshot for a couple of years, and that was a whole other thing, got to tour, went to Europe. I was like 22 and got to tour Europe with them, and ultimately wasn't really the thing that I was into at the time, right. But it was definitely fun. And like I was friends with those guys and stuff, So
and Chris from that was in
Chris was in Deathlock too. So that's kind of what like I knew Chris the most out of all those guys. Okay. So then like Chris had asked me, "Hey, do you want to play guitar?" Because they need a guitar player. Right. And then while I was in the band, they kicked Steve Steen out, and that came out of nowhere. And then I was the only guitar player for a while, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, what? How did that happen? Right. I'm like, what I mean? It's like all this because I did play, for a while. Like I was in the band like with Steve Steen and Mark McKay. Yeah. And then Mark left. So it got kind of weird for a little while. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, they're still obviously they're doing better than ever now. You know what I mean? And their new stuff sounds great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
Craig is
Craig. Craig's an amazing guitar player. Yeah. For a while there, it was just kind of like back when I was in the band, it was just like it seemed a little iffy. Like no one really knew one day to the next what was going on with the band. You know what I mean? So, but it was definitely fun. It was definitely a great playing with them. I did a U.S. tour and a European tour with them. Nice. So
you weren't straight edge or anything, right?
I was not. No, actually, when I was in the band, none of us were except for Choke. Yeah, everyone in the band.
I always wondered that.
Drank and and Choke was the only one who was straight edge at that point. Yeah, so. Nice. That was kind of weird too. Yeah.
And you guys did that one record, the Blast Furnace, right?
Yeah, we did. I did one studio record, Blast Furnace, and then a live album in Berlin. Yeah, which is that's a really good record, I think. Because that's like all their hits, and that was like a blast playing all those songs, And the Blast Furnace wasn't very well received because at that point Choke was really into industrial music. Yeah. And he wanted to do more of kind of like an industrial. There's like a lot of samples on that record, and that's what he was going for. Like he was sick of hardcore at that point, right. And so that's why that record's like that, But then the live record, that's just like all the hits, all the classics, what I mean, which we played live. And so I mean, I love that live record. I think it's I think it's a fun record. Definitely. We did that in Germany. It's kind of like a greatest hits album almost. So yeah.
Nice. And then you were in Roadsaw after that.
Yeah, and then Roadsaw. I was also in another band called Head Cleaner.
Oh yeah.
Right around that time. For a while, I was like in 3 bands, and then that we changed the name to Superhead because there was a band from England called Head Cleaner, and they got in touch with us and said, "No, we're going to sue you." And they had a record out, and then so then we changed the name, and then I started playing Roadsaw. So then I left Superhead, started playing Roadsaw. Yeah, and then I basically just did that for like 3 or 4 years. Just Roadsaw. We toured a lot. Yeah. Did a bunch of just month-long tours of the U.S. Like no one knew who we were. Right. But we would just get in the van and we would just go on tour and just play everywhere. It was crazy, you know what I mean? Because no one knew who we were. And but it was definitely fun, man. That was definitely a lot of fun times on those tours. Nice. Yeah.
And they did more sort of just straight up rock.
Roadsaw?
Stonerish kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was definitely more like, the stoner rock, quote unquote stoner rock type of stuff. Which to me was always just kind of like heavy 70s rock, really. You know what I mean? That's really what it was. And I mean, it was really good. We went out to L.A. We recorded in L.A. the second record nationwide. We actually stayed out in L.A. for like 2 or 3 months. Oh, really? And recorded out there with a producer who's worked with like Judas Priest and Bruce Dickinson, like his solo records. He was actually in Bruce Dickinson's band. Oh, wow. He produced that band Downset. I don't know if you remember them. Yeah. So we recorded with him in L.A. We were out there for a couple of months. Like we got like there's a place out there called Oakwoods, which is like apartments, like that you rent for however long. So we got like an apartment there for like a couple of months and like lived out in like Burbank. Oh, nice. And that was a whole other experience too, And then like when we finished the record and they mixed it, and it was like, all right, here's the mixes, and it was like the slickest thing. It was like no way, this is not what we're going. Like the drums were all sampled. It was just like seriously, it was like the slickest recording, and we're like, no, this is not. So then basically what happened was, then at that point we got Hari in the band playing drums, because at first for a while it was just me, Tim, and Craig, like a 3-piece, and then we got Hari in the band, and then we recorded some more stuff in Boston with Andrew Schneider, and so we recorded like a few songs, and then we remixed the LA stuff, make it not slick, like got rid of all the gloss, and then we kind of combined the two sessions, and that became nationwide. But nice. But yeah, at first it was really funny, man, because that record, seriously, because those were like LA guys, and that's what they were used to. Yeah, of course. And like it was like, I have a cassette of it somewhere buried in a box of the original mixes.
That never got heard.
Yeah. There's actually, I think there was a compilation called Alston Rock City that came out. Like in 96 or 97, and there's a version of Not Today by Roadsaw on that. I think that's the original, like the original mixes from that session. It's that song. So if anyone wants to hunt it down, you can hear the slick, glossy Roadsaw, which we hated. And the guy the producer, I won't say his name, I just, whatever. Yeah. But he hated the fact that we. He I don't even think he wanted to talk to us after we remixed it. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes, though, man.
Now, with all these bands, were you also like part of the songwriting process too?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Not so much in Slapshot. A lot of that was just choke. Yeah. Like he would, tell me what kind of riffs he. Right. You know what I mean? All the other bands, I definitely contributed to the songwriting, like Roadsaw. And Head Cleaner. When I joined Slaughter Shack, they already had a bunch of songs, but then once I joined, I helped out in songwriting. So I definitely along the way, just always working on riffs, working on how to arrange stuff, So that all came into play. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then was Milligram after.
And then Milligram happened after Roadsaw, and that was really when I was like, I wrote pretty much all the music. You know, Jonah wrote all the
words.
vocals and everything like that. You know, but I mean, I had a 4-track. I was living in Arlington at the time, and I had a 4-track a 4-track cassette, and I had a drum machine. I just remember just being like, I'm just going to start a new band, you know what I mean? And I like sat down, I demoed these songs like with, guitars, drum machine, everything, no vocals, but the music.
Yeah.
And I gave a tape to Jonah. I'm like, hey man, I'm doing this band, are you interested in singing? And he was like, yeah, let's do this, Cool. We had actually tried getting it going before.
Okay.
But we couldn't find like a drummer. We couldn't find like a permanent drummer, you know what I mean? We jammed with some other guys.
Right.
We jammed with Taz, who's in like La Gratona.
Yep.
We played with him. We played with this other guy, Dave, who lives in Florida now. And nothing really worked, so we just kind of stopped. And then and then once I like made this like demo and gave it to Jonah, and then we got Zephyr involved, and then and that's when it really became like a band. You know what I mean? Nice. And then we really just focused on writing the best stuff that we could at that point. You know what I mean?
Was the stuff from those demos that far from what came out when you had 4 people?
Yeah, I mean a lot of the stuff. I mean, like a lot of the stuff is on that first record. The can we swear on this? Okay. Okay, like on Hello Motherfucker. Like all those songs were pretty much on the demo that I did.
Yeah. Okay.
With a drum machine and guitar.
Right.
And then. And then Jonah wrote all the vocals and everything. But all those songs were on the demo.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? And then we just, obviously we recorded them in the studio.
Right.
And it was actually kind of funny, like around that time, too. Jonah was still signed to Warner Brothers because of Milltown.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I remember we had this, right when the band was getting together, we weren't sure because Jonah was still under contract, so we didn't really know what was,
Right.
So we're like, well, let's see if Warner Brothers is interested in this band, and they were like not interested, like in the band. They wanted nothing to do with us. We had a conference call with them at Zephyr's apartment.
Yep.
I remember this conference call, and we were going on like a week-long U.S. tour, nothing big at all.
Right.
And we were trying to just get some money from the label, like just for a van. Like we're like, can you like maybe give us like $500 or something, or like $1,000 for a van rental? Because the singer is on your label. You know what I mean? So we're just seeing if we could get anything, and they were like, nope. They're just like, no. And so nothing happened with that at all. They just were not interested. And then eventually that label, I can't remember what they called, Giant? No, I don't know if it was Giant or something else. But whatever division of the label it was, it eventually folded, and then Jonah was freed from his contract.
Yeah.
And I remember he called me that day, like so excited. I'm free. I'm like, he was like free of the contract, And so we didn't have to worry about any of that anymore,
Nice. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, man.
Yeah, when I talked to him for this podcast, he had mentioned. He said there's a tape somewhere of an acoustic version of. Just you and him doing my own private album.
Yes. We did that on 4-track at my apartment in Alston. That was probably the first thing we did, where I had the music. And I was like, hey, you want to come over and just work on the songs? Like, yeah. And we actually, there is a 4-track of that on acoustic. I might even have a copy. I have like a milk crate just full of tapes, and it might be in there. Jonah might have it somewhere too. Yeah. That was probably the first thing that we did that that became Milligram. We wasn't really even a band at that point, but we'd been talking about playing together. He was doing Milltown, I was in Roadsaw at the time. It was just one of those things. The timing wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, and then once I wasn't in Roadsaw, I can tell you the impetus behind Milligram. I wasn't even really planning on doing another band at that point, but. Yeah. I remember there was a guitar magazine, like Guitar World or Guitar Player, one of those guitar magazines, had a review of Nationwide, like because they re-released Nationwide.
Yep.
And Ian was in the band at that point, and there was like a review of the record in one of these guitar magazines, like a really good review of the record, and it mentioned Ian. It didn't say anything about me. And I was like, fuck this, man. I'm getting a new band together. I'm like, seriously. And I remember that I was, nothing against those guys at all, but I'm like, I'm on that record. That's not Ian, you know what I mean? Right. And and I'm like, if this record's gonna get like reviews in like guitar magazines, I'm gonna get a new band together. You know what I mean? And then that's the thing that made me like really concentrate on getting like Milligram together.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And then you guys did the This Is Class War.
Yeah, This Is Class War. That was like a whole weird time for the band. Yeah, that was just a weird time. Happened. 9/11 happened.
Yep.
I was in New York like when 9/11 happened. I had to leave Boston. I had some stuff going on in Boston. I had to leave.
Okay.
And I went and stayed with some friends in New York, and I actually got to New York on September 10th.
Really?
And then the next day, September 11th happened, and then I was like stuck in New York for like a week and a half. Like I literally just stuck in New York. You know what I mean? And then I came back, and I didn't have a job here, and I didn't really have anywhere to live, and it was just like this really weird time. And then just kind of put all of that into that record. That's why that record's like just so angry sounding. Because I think we were all just on edge.
Yeah, no, it has
about everything.
Yeah, that album is like oozes like soul and just power and just anger and
it was a very angry time for definitely me, and I think all of us in general. And that's why that record sounds like that. It's just a really weird time. Like we were actually supposed to be recording on September 11th. We were supposed to be in the studio recording, and we had to cancel our recording session because I had to leave town and like just get out of town because I had some stuff going on that that had to be kind of like let the dust settle. And I went to New York, and then September 11th happened, and then I was stuck there, and then we had to cancel our recording session. It was just like this really weird thing. So anyway, the record eventually came out, and I'm super proud of that album. That was definitely one of the high points for me musically. Being in a band. And I think Jonah's vocals on that record are amazing. Yeah.
The covers that you guys recorded too. I think they came with the first record. There was a bonus disc that had Misfits and
the Misfits and Black Flag. Yeah, and Fear. Yeah. Yep.
Gigi.
Yeah, we
No.
What's that?
Is there a Gigi cover on there too?
We didn't do a Gigi cover. No. Yeah, we did Fear.
Yeah.
We did a couple of Misfit songs, a couple of Black Flag songs. Nice. Black Flag was definitely a huge influence on that band. Absolutely. I mean, that's the song Jeff's Flag is called that because Jeff wrote it, and it sounds like a Black Flag song. So like, it was kind of like short for like Jeff's Black Flag song, and that's why we called it Jeff's Flag.
Okay. Right.
If anyone's wondering about that, yeah. But Black Flag was a huge influence on Milligram, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. And then after that was.
Wow. And then Drug War happened.
Okay.
And then I played bass in that.
Okay.
That was really just kind of like blowing off steam.
Right.
And we did a record, which I think it's really not that bad of a record. I don't think a lot of people took that band very seriously.
Right.
I mean, we didn't really take it seriously. We did, but we didn't. You know what I mean? It was a lot of the songs were just like someone plug in and we just start playing. Okay, what is that? Okay, that's a song now. You know what I mean? We just wouldn't make stuff up like that. You know what I mean? And I scored drugs for Courtney Love. Stuff like that. Just like silly stuff. But again, that band. The band was fun. There was definitely some shows that I don't even remember. I mean, I was just like drinking a lot at that point, and I was just like blowing off steam. Yeah. And there were definitely whole shows. Just I don't even remember. We played with LA Guns for some reason in Leominster. And I got arrested at the show.
Before you played?
No, we played,
okay.
And then I got arrested. And I didn't see LA Guns play. I was in jail. I don't even know the name of the club, but it was in Leominster at some club.
Yeah.
And I remember Dave asking us, "Hey, you guys want to play with LA Guns?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's do that. Of course, yeah. Why wouldn't we want to play with LA Guns?" And I was drunk and outside, and this car went by on the park. I got kicked out of the club, which is why I was outside. Right. And then I kicked the car, and the parking lot is basically in the right behind the police station. The police station is like right there. Okay. So the cops were just there immediately.
Right.
And they just arrested me. The guy's like, "This guy kicked my car," and they arrested me. And then the band they got me out after the show. Yeah. And then I had to go back to Leominster a couple of times, like court appearances and everything, and that was the biggest pain in the ass ever, man. Seriously, it was like I went back to Leominster like 3 times
Just for something stupid.
to clear that up. And eventually, like the person who was whose car I kicked, he never showed up ever to court.
The court case.
So it kept getting moved. They're like, okay, well, we're going to move it to another date. And then eventually, like none of the lawyers showed up. Like no one showed up this one time. Like, oh, they're going to throw this out.
Right.
And they didn't. They had me come back again. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then eventually I got a lawyer.
Yeah.
And the other guy still never came to court. And he's like, look, this guy wants $600 for damages. And he showed me this like blurry black and white photo of a dented car. I'm like I don't even know what that is. Right. I'm like, and I literally just asked him, like, if I give you $600, will this just be over? He's like, yeah, this will be. And I don't even care if the lawyer kept the money. I literally went to a bank machine and I took $600 out and I came back to the courthouse and I gave him the $600 and he's like, okay, this will be expunged from your record. This is all set. Don't worry about it. I'm like, fine. I'm like, I don't even care if you keep the money.
Whatever.
Just make this stop. Yeah. So that was the end of my whole Leominster debacle. And I hate Leominster.
I don't think anybody likes Leominster.
Yeah, horrible. So yeah, that was probably the high point of the drug war years. Getting arrested at an LA gun show, of course.
And this was the 2000s, I guess, the early 2000s.
That was like 2005, like right around there. Yeah, okay. 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. Yeah. Nice. And then, so then after that, kind of laid low for a little while. Yeah. And then I got Hackman together. Yep. Which was kind of like an instrumental, type of thing. And that was cool for a while. We never. I like that band. We never toured. Yeah. We never even had T-shirts. I mean, we put out a couple of records, but we didn't really do much. We just like whatever. Yeah. That was kind of our attitude. Right. So the band was cool, but we didn't. Again, we didn't tour at all. Yeah. I don't think many people outside of Boston really knew us. Right. And then let's see what happened. And then I had when I was in Hackman, that's when I had my heart attack. Yeah. At practice.
Really?
And that was weird. Yeah. We were just practicing. I wasn't feeling good. It was August and it was really hot, and I just thought it was like heat exhaustion. Right. So we stopped playing. I'm like, I don't feel good. Let's take a break. Yeah. And then I wasn't feeling good. And the next thing I know, I woke up. I was on the floor of the hallway. Really? Like I had no recollection of what had happened. Yeah. And the other two guys like Jason and Owen were there, and then like it felt like someone punched me. I'm like, did you hit me, man? Did you punch me in the face? Because my jaw hurt. Yeah. Which I guess is what happens when you have a heart attack. Yeah. And then so then we called the ambulance. I actually walked to Jason's house.
Really?
Like we went to Jason's house because again I didn't think I had a heart attack. Right. I had no idea. Yeah. And then I still wasn't feeling very good. Yeah. We called an ambulance at Jason's house in Alston, and the ambulance came and they're like, "Hey, well, you just had a heart attack, so we're gonna take you to the hospital." And so they took me to St. Elizabeth's. Yeah. And I had 4 stents put in my heart, like right then. I actually had a pretty bad heart attack.
Really?
It wasn't like it was actually a pretty bad heart attack, and I survived it somehow. Yeah, luckily, And then, so that was during Hackman, and then then I took some time.
That's scary.
Yeah. That was, definitely I didn't know what was going on. But then I recovered. And then Hackman kept playing. And then eventually we just kind of ran out of steam. Yeah. And stopped playing. Right. And then, right around that time I was having issues with my heart. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I had to wear a vest. For a while, that was like a defibrillator vest. Right. And that wasn't fun at all. Right. You know what I mean? Because I had to wear this thing and had like a pack, with the cords and everything, And I didn't know what I was going to, I didn't know what was going to happen as far as playing music at all. Yeah. I wasn't playing in any bands anymore. Yeah. And I had this heart attack and I didn't know what was going on. That's when I started Black Wolf Goat because I wanted to play music. And but I didn't want to be like in a band, so I was just like, I'm just going to start doing this solo thing, which is like guitar loops and everything, and then that way I don't have to worry about anything, and I can just kind of do it on my own, And so I did that, and that was that was fun. I did like 3 records of that, and recorded everything with Glenn. Glenn Smith and Amps versus Ohms. I record everything that the band did with him. Nice. And the second record that we did, I was actually recording the record. I had the vest on, like the defibrillator vest, in the studio. Yeah. It was so I had this thing with like this like battery pack or something with like all these cords. Yeah. Attached to me, that the guitar with all these cords, like cords like everywhere. Right. You know what I mean? Try not to get all the cords like tangled. It was just weird, yeah. Huh. So that's so Black Wolf Goat served a purpose definitely for a while there because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. But I want to keep playing music, so that's why I did Black Wolf Goat. And
that was probably good to for you to just sort of get out of just doing like, not that you were pigeonholed, but I always thought he was just like a rock guitarist. So it was cool that when you were doing that, it was like, oh, he's like doing something different now. That's like
totally. And that was part of it too. I want to do definitely other stuff. Like some of that stuff is definitely not at all. I mean, a lot of it's not like rock music at all. You know what I mean? Because I listen to all types of stuff. So that was definitely like a chance just to do something different. So. I haven't done any Black Wolf Goat. I told everyone that the band broke up. Right. So you gotta look forward to the reunion show. So that'll be the thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there'll be a Black Wolf Goat reunion at some point. Yeah. Cool.
And then Kind is.
And then Kind. Then Black Pyramid was in there. Dude, I lose track of the bands. Yeah. So Black Pyramid. What happened there? Oh yeah, the original guy Andy quit.
Yeah.
Big kind of mess.
Yeah.
And those guys got in touch with me. Hackman actually played a couple of times at Black Pyramid.
Okay.
That's kind of how I met them. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, they got in touch with me. Hey, man, you want to come down and because basically what happened was Andy quit the band, said the band's done without even consulting the other guys.
Really? Okay.
And they're like, oh, really?
Right.
They're like, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
So then they asked me, hey, you want to join the band? I'm like, sure. They're like, well, we have a show at Desert Fest. We're like headlining our show at Desert Fest like in a few months. I'm like, let's do it, Yeah. So we told Desert Fest, we hadn't even practiced at all.
Yeah.
And we said, yeah, we're going to do that. And we're like, okay, well, this better work because we hadn't even rehearsed. So then we got together, we rehearsed, it sounded good.
Yeah.
So we played Desert Fest. It went really well. So then we did a record, toured Europe, and all that. That was like a lot of fun. And then again, that just circumstances and different people involved, just not on the same page. I guess is the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. So that came to an end. And then the Scimitar was part of that. Actually, the Scimitar actually toured Europe as Black Pyramid.
Really? Okay.
Because Black Pyramid had a tour booked, but the drummer couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So then we got the drummer from the Scimitar to do it. Okay. So it was basically it was the Scimitar, but we toured as Black Pyramid.
Oh, right.
So it was kind of confusing.
Right.
But then then both bands ended because everyone moved away.
Yeah,
so which is what happens.
Right,
everyone moves away.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of what happened. That's kind of how I got Kind together because I know Black Pyramid and Elder played together a lot.
Yeah.
When Elder was first starting, when Elder was getting going. Now they're doing amazing now. Actually Matt is on tour with them right now.
Yeah.
But me and Matt have been talking for a while. Hey, we should jam. We should do something. And then finally we did. Yeah. And at first it was just me and Matt, and then Tom came down, and then Riggs heard about it. Hey, he's like, hey, I want to sing for that band, man. I want to sing for that band. And at first we were like, well, I don't know, man. The music's really weird. It's like we're just jamming. We have no like song structures at all. We don't even know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
Seriously, when Craig first started playing with us, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like epic jams, just crazy stuff going on. And we would record it and like, here, man, see if you can come up with something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then eventually we kind of whittled everything down into like somewhat of like songs. You know what I mean? Like parts where, okay, this can be a verse, this can be a chorus. Yeah. We'll figure it out. But at first it was really funny because seriously, we didn't know what the songs were or anything. We were just jamming. Yeah. And Craig's like, I want to sing. We're like, well, all right, we got to figure this out then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then we did that. And and that's kind of definitely like a side project because Matt's so busy with Elder, which is for good reason. Those guys tour a lot. They do really well, But whenever we can, we still do Kind.
Nice. You guys just played the other night, right?
What's that?
Did you guys just play the other night?
We just played O'Brien's, yeah. And we're playing Desert Fest in a couple of weeks, so over in London. So because we're gonna meet up with Matt. Elder's gonna be over there. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
And so I guess the final thing would be Test Meet.
Yeah.
Which I started mainly because Kind never plays,
right?
Because everyone's busy doing other stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I need a regular band. I need to play regularly.
Yeah. And
that's why I started Test Meet. And again, Test Meet to me is totally different from like the other bands I've been in. Like the songs are like really short.
Yeah.
Really catchy, like poppy almost.
I love it. I love it, man.
Thanks, man. So it's definitely different from Kind. It's definitely different from Black Pyramid. Yeah. That was the whole point of him. Like, if I'm going to do another band, I'm doing something different. I'm not going to do like another band that's just like heavy, doomy stuff.
Sabbath-y,
I'm going to do the exact opposite. These short songs.
Yeah.
So so Test Meet's going. It's been going pretty well. The single just came out. Been playing a bunch of shows. So and I love it. I love. This is the stuff that I love that I have wanted to play for a long time, but never really had a chance in other bands. You know what I mean? Like the early '90s type of like indie rock kind of grunge kind of stuff that I love that stuff. You know what I mean? So that's what Test Meet is completely about. It's about like early '90s like rock. You know what I mean? So. That's the whole point of the band.
Your vocals definitely remind me of Mudhoney and the
Mudhoney, Tad, like those are a couple of our big influences, definitely for sure.
And are you going to continue that as a 2-piece or?
For right now we are. We've talked to a couple of people about bass, but it's going so well as a 2-piece. It's just like it's real. First of all, it's just really easy to make decisions.
Right. Yeah.
With 2 people, and the sound doesn't really seem to have suffered at all, because my guitar sound kind of has a lot of bottom end to it. So, but we've talked to a couple of people. We haven't jammed with anyone actually, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. You know what I mean? We might keep it a 2-piece. We're going to keep it a 2-piece for now. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. That was never really the plan. It just kind of happened like that. You know what I mean? So, but. Yeah, so that wraps up everything.
Yeah.
And so Iron Fisted. There's Iron Fisted.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Coke Dealer.
Coke Dealer. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Coke Dealer at all?
I remember them.
Okay.
Was with, Chris.
That was a mess.
Was that Chris Jackson? Seeing that? No.
That was really Mark Schleicher's. Brainchild. Yeah. But at one point that band included the band never ever rehearsed ever.
Yeah.
Never once ever rehearsed. It's always just like, okay, we have a show booked. Yeah. Just tell everyone show up, and Cliff from ISIS, he was in the band for a while. Really? Okay. There's all these just different people would come and go out of the band. You know what I mean? And some shows weren't even. Music wasn't even involved. Like we had one show at O'Brien's, it was just a press conference. We set up a table, and we just like took questions from the audience, and that was like the show, And I think the most memorable show was we played at O'Brien's, and this was the old O'Brien's, when they had like 2 tables, and a couple of broken chairs. You know what I mean? Yeah. And at one point, as soon as we started, like Mark. Like just jumped into the audience, like jumped onto a table, and like just like there's just like stuff just flying everywhere. It was just like a complete mess. Like as soon as we started, I remember looking out, and there was this is when they had bouncers at O'Brien's too. They usually have like a bouncer there. It was weird, and what he had Mark in like a headlock. He's like waving his arms, like telling us to stop. And Mark's just screaming into the mic, and we're just playing like this.
Still at the mic.
Yeah. He's still got the mic. Yeah, and the guy's got him in like a headlock, going like this, like waving his arm, like stop. And we're not. It was ridiculous, dude. And then so we got cut off.
Yeah, of course.
And then I went back. I went back the next day and got paid.
Oh, did you? Just drop people.
Hey, can we get paid for last night? Yeah, that show that we got thrown out of. Yeah. So. Yeah, so that band was pretty fun, man.
It's after doing all these podcasts now with people, I'm like realizing like how rich of a history we have here in Boston, and you know, we kind of don't think about it all the time of just how all the different eras and genres of music, and so it's cool. And you know, you've been part of like
it's very interconnected. And every once in a while I'll think about it. Like you know what, like last night or a couple nights ago, after Kind played O'Brien's, and a few of us went back to the Model and just hanging out, having some beers. And someone was talking about the show, you know, about remember when Morphine played with Bolt LaVolta and Slaughter Shack? It was at Craig Riggs's loft.
Yeah.
And I was in Slaughter Shack at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, holy crap, man! I'm like, that seems so long ago. We played with Morphine and Bolt LaVolta, and it was like this huge, like it was just a party.
Yeah,
but there was probably like 300 or 400 people there, like literally in this like loft.
That's amazing.
And it was just like, you know, thinking back about like stuff like that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or the Nirvana at Slaughter Shack.
Slaughter Shack playing with Nirvana in a basement at MIT. You know what I mean? Like a keg party.
Yeah, you were.
And it was. I wasn't in Slaughter Shack at that point, but I was at the show, and it was amazing. You know, it was amazing. And you know, there is definitely still like cool stuff that goes on in Boston. You know, and I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to sound like, oh, but back then we, you know. But you know, there was definitely stuff going on back then that's I can't imagine happening now. You know what I mean? There is still definitely cool stuff going on, but it's just a different vibe. You know what I mean? There's not as many. You know, the loft scene is pretty much just gone. You know, so.
Yeah, it seems like there was always shows at like rehearsal spaces and. Yeah,
man. I mean, there were. I mean, for a while, the whole loft scene. Some of the club owners were getting mad because. Some of the parties were drawing like a few hundred people, seriously, and like the club owners were like, hey, you know, you guys gotta knock this off, you know what I mean? Seriously, and because you go to some of these loft parties, there'd be like 300 people there, man, and you got Morphine playing, you know, and it's a party in someone's loft, you know what I mean? It's doing better than the clubs, you know what I mean? Crazy stuff, you know. I saw Bolt LaVolta numerous times at like loft parties, you know, and but yeah, I mean, you know, it's great that there's still part of the music scene. I mean, I love that there's new stuff going on, obviously. You know, but I think that it's cool that there's like you know, people that are still playing that were around back. You know, like Craig Riggs. You know, he's been playing Boston longer than me. You know what I mean? Tim Katz. You know what I mean? Those guys. There's these are like, you know, John Darga. These are people that are Keith Bennett. You know what I mean? People that have been playing like for a long time that have, you know what I mean, still playing. You know, like Panzerbastard, you know, awesome band. You know what I mean? Keith's still doing it.
Still at the same level of like
passion
too. So
that's right.
And that's a testament to, I think, just Boston people and how we are here. Like they just we just want to.
I think we're stubborn.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I should stop. Yeah, I'm not gonna. You know.
Definitely. Well, thanks for doing this with me, man.
Oh yeah, totally, man. Absolutely, yeah.
Who are some of the local bands you're digging lately?
Some new stuff that I like.
Yeah.
Burnham Wood's really good.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. Leatherlung are good. I dig them. Sundrifter is another band. These were all like more of the heavier band, kind of like quote unquote stoner rock type stuff. But those were all like some really good bands. Yeah. The new band, I got to hear the song that Jonah's new band. With
Stilfen.
With Glenn Stilfen. Yeah. Northern Skulls.
Yeah. How was that?
The song's amazing.
Yeah.
I guess they're gonna release a single Friday, like digitally.
Oh, cool.
And the song, I've heard it and it sounds great. I'm not gonna give anything away, awesome. but it's definitely, you know, awesome. It's, you know, Jonas singing. Yeah. You know, I know, you know, he's doing the Raw Radar Hour, which is just him like yelling and stuff. You know, but this is definitely him back to the melodic singing. You know, and it's definitely good stuff. Yeah. People are gonna flip out. You know,
awesome. Nice.
And it's good again. Glenn Stilfen, man.
Yeah, I know. Gangrene.
It's great to have him playing again.
I know, right?
You know, I mean, that guy goes back to using Gangrene when he was like 15 or something. You know, it's crazy. You know.
Mallet Head, was that one?
Yeah, Mallet Head. Yep. Yeah. When they play with Soundgarden.
Yeah.
You know, at Axis. So yeah. I mean, it's just great that certain people, a lot of people have moved away,
Right.
and a lot of people have stopped playing music, which is I can't blame them. You know what I mean? But it's good that again, it's good that there's still people I think that have been playing for years and years and years that are still doing it around here.
Yeah.
And it's good to be able to integrate that with new stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And personally for me, for Kind, I think it's kind of cool. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but just like me and Craig are like the old guys.
Yeah.
And then like, Matt and Tom, they're both, me and Craig are old enough to be their dads.
Right.
You know what I mean? And but somehow it kind of works. You know what I mean? It's like, here's the old guys, and here's the young guys. We're able to play together, and it works. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of fun to be in a band with dudes that are like half your age, almost pretty much. You know what I mean? It gives it a whole different vibe. You know what I mean? So
I think the experience and that kind of
right. I mean, and those guys were totally, they're not jaded yet about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're able to draw off of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I mean that really wasn't the intent at all, but that's just how it happened. You know. So
awesome. Cool,
yeah.
Man.
Old school meets the new school.
Yeah. That's it, man.
Yeah.
And Boston too, in the last few years, I feel like finally has sort of metal happening, because for years you couldn't see metal in Boston.
Right.
Like Deathlock or Wargasm or Malaya Rage would play, but it was a limited area to see those.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean back then, like to see like just a metal show at a club in Boston.
Yeah.
Was a rarity. It was basically weekends, like all ages shows,
Yeah.
and with or like certain nights, like Wednesday at Narcissus. That
Right.
was like metal night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Other than that, hardly ever happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now it's just like you can go out on all Saturday night of the week, man. There'll be like some good metal show going on and around Boston, which is really cool. You know, but it definitely wasn't like that always. You know, so
The Channel did a thing. I remember in
the channel did like they did Metal Tuesdays for a while. Yeah.
It's like
And
89
and they had a lot of metal shows,
yeah.
but a lot of the smaller clubs, didn't have metal. It was just unheard of.
Yeah, you wouldn't see local. It wouldn't be like now where you can see 4 local metal bands.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to open for someone.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to be open for a bigger band.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go to like the Middle East upstairs
Right.
and see like 4 ripping metal bands. That's just like that was unheard of. Now it's like it's just like a common thing now, which is cool. It's awesome. You know.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of funny too, man. Like someone had posted something on Facebook recently about a club that I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing a blank on it now, man. There's some club in Kenmore Square that I had never heard of, and they posted a calendar from like 1982 or 1983.
Really?
And I was looking at them. I had heard of some of the bands that were on the calendar,
Right.
but it was definitely a little bit before my time.
Right.
And I was like, I was like, I'd never even heard of this place, man. I've been playing in Boston for years. Some of the places that maybe I wasn't old enough to go, like Cantones,
Right.
or other places like that like I've at least heard of. There was like this one place I literally can't think of what it's called right now.
Yeah.
It was in Kenmore Square, and like I never heard of it. I'm like, that's crazy, man. That there was a club that bands played at, and it was like near the Hotel Buckminster, like in the basement. I can't remember what it's called.
Storyville, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My second punk show I saw there. I'm like,
Really?
The Proletariat, like in '83.
I never even heard of that place.
But there's actually like there's like a Charlie Parker live at Storyville like record somewhere.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
See that, but to me that's crazy. Like I had never even heard of this club, and then like someone like last week posted about it. I'm like, where the hell was this? I'm like, I've never even heard anyone even mention it before.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I remember.
You went there?
Yeah, the one show. But
what was it like?
I was fucking. It was 1983. I don't remember. But it was Sorry and Proletariat.
Wow, man.
I brought it up before, and I think my friend Chuck Moving Targets was at that same show.
Wow.
But
Seriously. That blew my mind, because I was like, I even if there were clubs I hadn't been to,
right.
I've heard of certain clubs. You know what I mean? Because around that time I was just too young. I didn't even But I mean, I'd never even heard of this place.
Yeah.
Literally,
it must have been one of those where they just had like because that was the only time I ever went there. I remember because it was right when I
Storyville. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Storyville. It was right behind where Pizzeria Uno was. For
Right.
It was like right
Okay. That's what they were saying, yeah.
Yeah, in that block. But yeah, I don't remember anything else about it except that one show I saw. So
I saw that there used to be, Ground Zero
oh yeah, yep,
in Central Square,
Yeah.
which was like a little hole in the wall.
yeah.
Place was so small.
Rollins played.
And what's that?
Rollins did a spoken word.
Really? Yeah, I saw White Zombie there.
Really? Oh,
Yep.
crazy.
Like back, like right. It was before they were like huge, but like
Yeah.
right before that, and the show was amazing. And it was like this place, Ground Zero, which is like a little tiny hole in the wall,
It was like
and Central
Burger King or something.
long gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Long gone. You know.
I was dating a girl at the time that was like a goth, and she dragged me to see Sleep Chamber there.
Yep,
A number of times.
Yeah, it was a total goth
Yeah.
club. Yeah.
And that
Like
place-
Man Ray.
Yeah,
Man Ray, man. I saw Nirvana at Man Ray.
That's right. I saw that.
I saw Jesus Lizard at Man Ray.
Oh wow.
I saw one other like rock show. I know Mudhoney played there, but
Yeah.
I missed that. But again, that was like another place, like Man Ray, goth
Had a
club, but
couple
they would
shows,
have
yeah.
like some good rock
Yeah,
shows, you know.
they'd have-
Yeah,
And then up on the North Shore, they had was that place in Saugus?
Rock Pile,
Yeah, Rock Pile.
and then it got changed like Red Square.
Square,
Yeah.
Because I saw Only Living Witness there.
Yep.
At one point with some just those hardcore bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have some shows there once in a while too, man.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the thing about Boston too, man. Like the club scene seems to always regenerate. You know what I mean, like
Yeah.
stuff will close. Like TT's closed.
Yeah.
Now there's Sonya. I mean, I haven't been to Sonya yet,
I haven't
but
either,
it
yeah.
seems like it's doing
Getting
well.
good. Yeah, people like
There's just always like new stuff that's opening. I mean, it sucks when stuff closes. Like the Abbey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that place was awesome. I saw Witch there
Did you? That's crazy.
with Jay Mascis on drums. You know what I mean? It was amazing.
Yeah.
And at the Abbey.
The PA, remember PAs? Is that still?
PAs is still open, but that place is. I try to avoid it.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
I saw the Faith Healers did a reunion.
Who?
Like the Faith Healers.
Oh right, yeah. I know
Yeah.
Yob played there
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
Yob played there.
Yep.
I remember Thurston Moore played there.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
said random shows there. Yeah.
but again, it's just like these weird. There's always the mainstays like the
Yeah.
Middle East. You
Right.
know, well, actually, there's really not not many other
I know, right?
great Scott.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always these weird places where like there'll be some show where you're
Right.
like, where the hell was that show? It's like some weird
Yeah.
venue that you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like Night Stage
Oh yeah. Soul
was another
Sound.
place, and I saw John Zorn there,
Really?
with Mike Patton singing.
Oh, that's crazy.
Me and Doug Sherman went to that. And again, I mean, I don't. Night Stage is long gone.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's another place. Oh yeah, I saw Mike Patton sing with John Zorn.
That's amazing,
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes, man.
Yeah.
Stuff closes and then other stuff opens.
Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, yeah. Again, thanks again for doing this, man. And,
Yeah, thank you.
So
Thanks.
In your stuff, you have a Bandcamp that has a ton of your stuff on there. So if people want to find your.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on Bandcamp, if you just like type my name in, there is I think it's just my name and then Bandcamp.
Yeah.
It's just a page of like unreleased stuff from my bands, like some Milligram demos,
Yep.
some Roadsaw demos, some live stuff from all the different bands I've been in,
Okay.
and it's all free to download if anyone wants to check it out. You know what I mean?
And then
I just
Test
put that stuff up there.
Nice.
And then aside from like Test Meat has its own Bandcamp
Yeah.
page, Black Wolf Goat has its own stuff.
Yeah.
But this is just like my own. I just made a page for like kind of like unreleased stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
random
Demos,
stuff.
whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Nice.
So if anyone wants to check that out, yep.
Cool. And then-
Bandcamp.
Cool.
Yep.
And the Test Meet, I highly recommend people.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we
45.
got some shows coming up in June.
Cool. Where are you playing in June?
June O'Brien's,
Okay.
June 22nd, and then we're playing the Midway June 30th. I think like an all ages show, which should be
nice.
interesting.
Cool.
So but that's my main thing right now is Test Meet. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, man.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Dude, thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, of
Seriously.
course. Awesome, man.
Right on.
Cool.